I remind everybody to please turn off their cell phones, beepers, tweeters, electric kazoos. Good evening. Decades ago, during the Vietnam era, I was a young soldier in the United States Army on the DMZ in Korea. And in a pocket of my field jacket, I kept several sheets of paper with a number of poems on them. And every spare moment I had, I would take that piece of paper, those papers out, and memorize those poems. Now, that activity kept me sane, and to this day, I remember those poems. And that story didn't mean much to me then, and I didn't think much about it. But now, it reminds me of just how poetry adds richness to our lives in many ways. 4 years ago, we held SAS's first Poetry Out Loud competition. And now it's become a tradition at SAS. I'd like to thank Dr. Clark, Michael Clark, because it was his passion for poetry. It was his passion for poetry that motivated us to institute this competition at SAS and reminded us all of how poetry is alive and is important. It's exciting to see these young people studying poetry, finding poets who speak to them, and poems that move them in some way. This fourth annual Poetry Out Loud competition allows us to experience poetry the way poets meant it to be. Novelists mean for us to experience their works as we read it to ourselves. Dramatists mean for us to experience their works on a stage in a theater. The poets mean for us to hear their words aloud. I invite you now to sit back and experience the poetry that your sons and daughters and friends find moving, from Edward Arlington Robinson, Dylan Thomas, and Maya Angelou, to Howard Nemerov and Robert Creeley. As our students bring poetry to life the way poets meant for it to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Tonight's competition will be judged by a team of SAS faculty. Our evaluation judges are Trina Casey, our Director of Curriculum, Leanne Fulcher, our middle school drama teacher, and returning is Jennifer Sparrow, our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. Our accuracy judges are Rebecca Clark from the middle school RLA, and Terry Leopold from high school English. Poetry Out Loud is a recitation contest in which performers memorize and interpret poems. Students may choose the poems they recite from an online anthology featuring works by poets from Shakespeare to the present. The performances are evaluated on 7 criteria: physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, level of difficulty, evidence of understanding, and overall performance. A separate judge monitors the accuracy of the performer's memorization. Judges score each performance on a published evaluation sheet for a total of 141 possible points. The top 5 scores from round 1 will then recite a second poem in round 2. The highest total score will receive the grand prize. Everyone got that? Okay, so it's traditional in a poetry slam, if you've heard of one of those, to begin the evening's performances with a sacrificial poet, a performer who will set the stage for the performances to come, warming up the audience and judges. While Poetry Out Loud isn't a slam per se, in the past we have asked students to be our sacrificial performers outside of the competition. This year, senior Edith Enright was a delegate for oral interpretation of literature in IASA's Cultural Convention. She interpreted Sylvia Plath's Lady Lazarus, a difficult and emotionally demanding poem that explores the urgency and variety of the human voice. Composed after her third suicide attempt, Plath's poem features a speaker who lashes out against the world of doctors, family, religious figures, and men that has brought her back to life. Here to perform Lady Lazarus is Edith Enright.
Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath. I have done it again. 1 year in every 10, I managed it. A sort of walking miracle. My skin bright as a Nazi lampshade. My right foot a paperweight. My face a featureless, fine hue linen. Peel off the napkin, oh my enemy. Do I terrify? The nose, the eye pits, the full set of teeth. The sour breath will vanish in a day. Soon the flesh the grave cave ate will be at home on me, and I a smiling woman. I am only 30, and like the cat, I have 9 times to die. This is number 3. What a trash to annihilate each decade. What a million filaments. The peanut crunching crowd shoves in to see them unwrap me hand and foot. The big striptease. Gentlemen, ladies, these are my hands, my knees. I may be skin and bone. Nevertheless, I am the same identical woman. The first time it happened, I was 10. It was an accident. The second time, I meant to last it out and not come back at all. I rocked shut as a seashell. They had to call and pick the worms off me like sticky pearls. Dying is an art, like everything else. I do it exceptionally well. I do it so it feels like hell. I do it so it feels real. I guess you could say I have a call. It's easy enough to do it in a cell. It's easy enough to do it and stay put. It's the theatrical comeback in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute, amused shout. A miracle! That knocks me out. There is a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There is a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. And there is a charge, a very large charge, for a word, or a touch, or a bit of blood, or a piece of my hair or my clothes. So, Herr Doctor. So, Herr Enemy. I am your opus. I am your valuable, the pure gold baby that melts to a shriek. I turn and burn. Do not think I underestimate your great concern. Ash, you poke and stir, flesh, bone, there is nothing there. A cake of soap, a wedding ring, a gold filling. Herr God, Herr Lucifer, beware, beware. Out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air.
We'll now start round one.
Okay. Emma Rutkowski, grade 10. The End of Science Fiction by Liesl Mueller. This is not fantasy. This is our life. We are the characters who have invaded the moon, who cannot stop their computers. We are the gods who can unmake the world in 7 days. Both hands are stopped at noon. We're beginning to live forever in lightweight aluminium bodies with numbers stamped on our backs. We dial our words like music. We hear each other through water. The genre is dead. Invent something new. Invent a man and a woman naked in a garden. Invent a child who will save the world. A man who carries his father out of a burning city. Invent a spool of thread that leads a hero to safety. Invent an island on which he abandons the woman who saved his life with no loss of sleep over his betrayal. Invent us as we were before our bodies glittered and we stopped bleeding. Invent a shepherd who kills a giant, a girl who grows into a tree, a woman who refuses to turn her back on the past and is changed to salt, a boy who steals his brother's birthright and becomes the head of a nation. Invent real tears, hard love, slow-spoken ancient words, difficult as a child's first steps across the room.
Sophia Coulter, grade 10. I am learning to abandon the world by Linda Paston. I am learning to abandon the world before it can abandon me. Already I have given up the moon and snow, closing my shades against the claims of light. And the world has taken my father, my friends. I have given up melodic lines of hills, moving to a flat, tuneless landscape. And every night I give my body up limb by limb, working upward across bone towards the heart. But morning comes with small reprieves of coffee and birdsong. A tree outside the window, which was simply shadow moments ago, takes back its branches twig by leafy twig. And as I take my body back, the sun lays its warm muzzle on my lap, as if to make amends.
Alexander Orbetz, grade 12. Do not go gentle into that good night. Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end, no dark is right. Because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green May. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gent into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce cheers, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Lauren Olofsky, grade 9, Her Head by Joan Murray. Near Ikubukani in Natal, South Africa, a woman carries water on her head. After a year of drought, when 1 child in 3 is at risk of death, she returns from a distant well, carrying water on her head. The pumpkins are gone, the tomatoes withered, yet the woman carries water on her head. The cattle kraals are empty, the goats gaunt, no milk now for children, but she is carrying water on her head. The engineers have reversed the river. Those with power can keep their power, but one woman is carrying water on her head. In the homelands, where the dusty crowds watch the empty roads for water trucks, one woman trusts herself with treasure and carries water on her head. The sun does not dissuade her, not the dried earth that blows against her as she carries the water on her head. In a huge and dirty pail with an idle handle resting on a narrow can, this woman is carrying water on her head. This woman who girds her neck with safety pins, this one who carries water on her head, trusts her own head to bring to her people what they need now between life and death. She is carrying them water on her head.
Jamie Oy, grade 9, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop about a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flick. The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. But I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep.
Legion Park, grade 10, Poor Angels by Edward Hirsch. At this hour, the soul floats weightlessly through the city streets, speechless and invisible, astonished by the smoky blend of grays and golds seeping out of the air. The dark half-tones of dust suddenly filling the urban sky, while the body sits listlessly by the window, sullen and heavy, too exhausted to move, too weary to stand up or lie down. At this hour, the soul is like a yellow wing, slipping through the treetops, a little aesthetic cloud hovering over these sidewalks, calling out to the approaching night. Amaze me, amaze me. While the body sits glumly by the window, listening to the clear summons of the dead, transparent as glass, clairvoyant as crystal. And some nights, it is almost ready to join them. Oh, what a strange, unlikely tethering, a furious grafting of the quick and the slow. When the soul flies up, the body sinks down, and all night trapped in the same cramped room. They go on quarreling, stubbornly threatening to leave each other, wordlessly filling the air with the sound of a low internal burning. How long will this bewildering marriage last? At midnight, the soul dreams of a small fire, of stars flaming on the other side of the sky, but the body stares into an empty night sheen, a hollow-eyed darkness. Poor luckless angels, feverish old loves. Don't separate yet. Let what rises live with what descends.
Joy Suresh, grade 10. American Smooth by Rita Dove. We were dancing. It must have been a foxtrot or a waltz, something romantic, but requiring restraint. Rise and fall. Precise execution as we moved into the next song without stopping. Two chests heaving above a 7-week stride. Such perfect agony as one learns to smile through ecstatic mimicry, being the sine qua non of American Smooth. And because I was distracted by the effort of keeping my frame, the leftward lean, head turned just enough to gaze out past your ear, and always smiling, smiling. I didn't notice how still you'd become until we had done it. For 2 measures, 4, achieved flight. That swift and serene magnificence. Before the earth remembered who we were and brought us down. Thank you.
Cadet Co., grade 9. The Rain by Robert Creeley. All night, the sound had come back again, and again falls this quiet, persistent rain. What am I to myself that must be remembered, insisted upon so often? Is it that never the ease or even the hardness of rain falling will have for me? Something other than this, something not so insistent. Am I to be locked in this final uneasiness? Love, if you love me, lie next to me. Be for me like rain, the getting out of the tiredness, the fatuousness, the semi-lust of intentional indifference. Be wet with a decent happiness.
Samantha Danes, grade 11. Vixen by W.S. Merwin. Comet of stillness. Princess of what is over.
high note held without trembling, without voice, without sound. Aura of complete darkness. Keeper of the kept secrets, of the destroyed stories, the escaped dreams, the sentences never caught in words. Warden of where the river went. Touch of its surface, sibyl of the extinguished window onto the hidden place, and the other time, at the foot of the wall by the road, patient, without waiting. In the full moonlight of autumn at the hour when I was born, you no longer go out like a flame at the sight of me. You are still warmer than the moonlight gleaming on you. Even now you are unharmed. Even now, perfect, as you have always been. Now when your light paws are running on the breathless night on the bridge with one end, I remember you. When I have heard you, the soles of my feet have made answer. When I have seen you, I have waked and slipped from the calendars, from the creeds of difference and the contradictions that were my life and all the crumbling fabrications, as long as it lasted, until something that we were had ended. When you are no longer anything, let me catch sight of you again, going over the wall. And when the garden is extinct and the woods are figures guttering on a screen, let my words find their own places in the silence after the animals.
Priya Blair, grade 10, The Way It Sometimes Is by Henry Taylor. At times, it is like watching a face you have just met, trying to decide who it reminds you of. No one surely whom you ever hated or loved, but yes, somebody. Somebody. You watch the face as it turns and nods, showing you at certain angles a curve of the lips or a lift of the eyebrow that is exactly right. And still, the lost face eludes you. Now this face is talking, and you hear a sound in the voice, the accent on certain words. 2 syllables. Wasn't it? Doorknob? Bathroom? Shawcross. What the hell kind of word is Shawcross? A name? Not the right one. A couple of syllables that could possibly be a little like something you may once have heard. So the talk drifts, and you drift, sneaking glances pounding your brain. Days later, a face occurs to you. And yes, there is a resemblance. That odd word, though, or phrase is gone. It must have been somebody else. Yes, it's like that at times. Something is maybe, and there are days when you can almost say what it is. Thank you.
Natalie Weinrock, grade 9, And Death Shall Have No Dominion by Dylan Thomas. And death shall have no dominion. Dead men, naked, it shall be one with the man in the wind and the west moon, when their bones are picked clean and the clean bones gone. They shall have stars at elbow and foot. Though they go mad, they shall be sane. Though they sink through the sea, they shall rise again, though lovers be lost. Love shall not, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. Under the windings of the sea, they lying long shall not die windily. Twisting on racks when sinews give way, strapped to a wheel, yet they shall not break. Faith in their hand shall snap in two, and the unicorn evils run them through. Split all ends up. They shan't crack, and death shall have no dominion, and death shall have no dominion. No more gulls may cry at their ears, or waves break loud on the seashores. Where blew a flower, may a flower no more lift its head to the blows of the rain. Though they be mad and dead as nails, heads of the characters hammer through daisies, break in the sun till the sun breaks down, and death shall have no dominion. Thank you.
Sophia Sihuko, grade 11. Sea Fever, John Masefield. I must go down to the sea again, to the lonely sea in the sky. And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick in the wind's song, and the white sails shaking, and a gray mist on the sea's face, and a gray dawn breaking. I must go down to the sea again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the sea again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way, and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trek's over.
We'll now have a 5-minute break before we continue with round 1. Weren't they amazing? If I could ask for people to be quiet during the recital, I think we can hear some people whispering, and I know you're excited, but we'd appreciate it if you'd not do that. Well, we're now ready to begin round 2. Second part of round 2. Yeah, the 60s were good to me. The second part of round 1.
Hamson Howard, grade 12. Meditation on a Grapefruit by Craig Arnold. To wake when all is possible, before the agitations of the day have gripped you. To come to the kitchen and peel a little basketball for breakfast. To tear the husk, like cotton padding, a cloud of oil misting out of its pinprick pores, clean and sharp as pepper. To ease each pale pink section out of its case so carefully, without breaking a single pearly cell. To slide each piece into a cold, blue china bowl, the juice pooling until the whole fruit is divided from its skin. And only then to eat, so sweet, a discipline precisely pointless, a devout involvement of the hands, and senses. A pause, a little emptiness. Each year harder to live within, each year harder to live without.
Abby Dalby, grade 9. A Song in the Front Yard by Gwendolyn Brooks. I've been in the front yard all my life. I want a peek at the back, where it's rough and untended and hungry weed grows. A girl gets sick of a rose. I want to go in the backyard now, and maybe down in the alley, to where the charity children play. I want a good time today. They do some wonderful things. They have some wonderful fun. My mother sneers, but I say it's fine, how they don't have to go in at 8:45. My mother, she tells me that Johnny May will grow up to be a bad woman, that George will go to jail soon or late, on account of last winter he sold at that gate. But I say it's fine, honest, I do, and I want to be a bad woman too, and wear the brave stockings of night black lace, and strut down the streets with paint on my face.
Margaret Perry, grade 10. Candles by Carl Dennis. If, on your grandmother's birthday, you burn a candle to honor her memory, you might think of burning an extra to honor the memory of someone who never met her. A man who may have come to the town she lived in looking for work and never found it. Picture him taking a stroll one morning after a month of grief with the want ads to refresh himself in the park before moving on. Suppose he notices on the gravel path the shards of a green glass bottle that your grandmother, then still a girl, will be destined to step on when she wanders barefoot away from her school picnic, if he does not stoop down and scoop the mess up and carry it to a trash can. For you to burn a candle for him, you needn't suppose the cut should be a deep one, just deep enough to keep her home the night of the hayride when she meets Helen, who's soon to become her dearest friend, whose brother George, 30 years later, helps your grandfather with a loan so his shoe store doesn't go under in the Great Depression. And his son, your father, is able to stay in school, where his love of learning is fanned into flames, a love he labors later to kindle in you. How grateful you are for your father's efforts is shown by the candles you burned for him. But today, for a change, why not a candle for the man whose name is unknown to you? Take a moment to wonder whether he died at home with friends and family, or alone on the road, on the lookout for no one to sit at his bedside and hold his hand, the very hand it is time for you to imagine holding.
Catherine Young, grade 12. Famous by Naomi Shihab Nye. The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous, briefly, to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it, but not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do. Thank you.
John B. Cholera, grade 9, The Universe as Primal Scream by Tracy K. Smith. 5 p.m. on the nose. They open their mouths and it rolls out, high, shrill, and metallic. First the boy, then his sister. Occasionally, they both let loose at once, and I think of putting on my shoes to go up and see whether it is merely an experiment their parents have been conducting upon the good crystal, which must surely left shattered to dust on the floor. Maybe the mother is still proud of the 4 pink lungs she nursed to such might. Perhaps if they hit the magic decibel, the whole building will lift off and go bride to glory like Elijah. If this is it, if this is what their cries are cocked toward, let the sky pass from blue to red to molten gold to black. Let the heaven we inherit approach. Whether it is our dead in Old Testament robes or a door opening onto the roiling infinity of space. Whether it will bend down to greet us like a father or swallow us like a furnace. I'm ready to meet what refuses to let us keep anything for long, what teases us with blessings, pens us with grief, wizard, thief, the great wind rushing to knock our mirrors to the floor, to sweep our short lives clean. How mean our racket seems beside it. My stereo on shuffle, the neighbor chopping onions through a wall. All of it just a hiccup against what may never come for us. And the kids upstairs, still at it, screaming like the dawn of man, as if something they had no name for has begun to insist upon being born.
Vibhav Jagwani, grade 10. The Bad Old Days by Kenneth Rexroth. The summer of 1918, I read The Jungle and The Research Magnificent. That fall, my father died. And my aunt took me to Chicago to live. The first thing I did was to take a streetcar to the stockyards. In the winter afternoon, gritty and fetid, I walked through the filthy snow, through the squalid streets, looking shyly into the people's faces, those who were there in the daytime. Debauched and exhausted faces, starved and looted brains, faces like the faces in the senile and insane wards of charity hospitals, predatory faces of little children. Then, as the soiled twilight darkened under the green gas lamps and the sputtering purple arc lamps, the faces of the men coming home from work, some still alive with last pulse of hope or courage, some sly and bitter, some smart and silly, most of them already broken and empty. No life, only blinding tiredness, worse than any tired animal. The thousand suppers of fried potatoes and fried cabbage bled into the street. I was giddy and sick and out of my misery. I felt rising a terrible anger. And out of the anger, an absolute vow. Today, the evil is clean and prosperous, but it is everywhere. You don't have to take a streetcar to find it. And it is the same evil. And the misery, and the anger, and the vow are the same.
Zelda Kimball, grade 10, For the Young Who Want To by Marge Piercy. Talent is what they say you have after the novel is published and favorably reviewed. Beforehand, what you have is a tedious hobby, like knitting. Work is what you have done after the play is produced and the audience claps. Beforehand, friends keep asking when you are planning to go out and get a job. Genius is what they know you had after the 3rd volume of remarkable poetry. Earlier, they accuse you of withdrawing, ask why you don't have a baby, call you a bum. The reason people want MFAs, take workshops with fancy names when all you can really learn are a few techniques, typing instructions, and somebody else's mannerisms is that every artist lacks a license to hang on their wall. Like your optician, your vet, proving you may be a clumsy sadist whose fillings fall into the stew, but you're certified a dentist. The real writer is one who really writes. Talent is an invention like phlogiston after the fact of fire. Work is its own cure. You have to like it. Better than being loved.
Anna Kitamura, grade 9, Inside Out by Diane Mikowski. I walked the purple carpet into your eye, carrying the silver butter server, but a chakram blew by, leaving its black tire prints on my foot, and old images, the sound of banging screen doors on hot afternoons, and a fly buzzing over Kool-Aid spilled on the sink, flicker as reflections on the metal surface. Come in, you said, inside your paintings, inside the blood factory, inside eyes that change like a snowflake every second, inside spinach leaves holding that one piece of gravel, inside the whiskers of a cat, inside your old hat, and most of all, inside your mouth, where you grind the pigments with your teeth, painting with the broken bottle on the floor, and painting with an ostrich feather on the moon that rolls out of my tongue. You cannot let me walk inside you too long. Inside the veins where my small feet touch bottom. You must reach inside and pull me like a silver bullet from your arm. Rupal Kandepuri, grade 9, Famous by Naomi Shihab Nye. The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous, briefly, to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth. More famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it and not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole. Not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do.
The Way It's, Richelieu 1, grade 12, The Way It Sometimes Is by Henry Taylor. At times it is like watching a face you have just met, trying to decide who it reminds you of. No one, surely, whom you've ever hated or loved, but yes, somebody. Somebody. You watch as the face turns and nods, showing you at certain glances the curve of the lips or a lift of the eyebrow. That is exactly right. And still, the lost face eludes you. Now, this face is talking, and you hear a sound in the voice, the accent on certain words. Yes, a phrase. 2 syllables, wasn't it? Doorknob, bathroom, shawcross? What the hell kind of word is shawcross? A name, not the right one. A couple of syllables that could possibly be a little like something you may once have heard. So the talk drifts, and you drift, sneaking glances pounding your brain. Days later, a face occurs to you. And yes, there is a resemblance. That odd word, though, or phrase, is gone. It must have been somebody else. Yes, it's like that at times. Something is, maybe. And there are days where you can almost say what it is.
Fiel Dimiakiak, grade 10, Advice to a Prophet by Richard Wilbur. When you come, as you soon must, to the streets of our city, mad-eyed from stating the obvious, not proclaiming our fall, but begging us in God's name to have self-pity. Spare us all word of the weapons, their force and range, the long numbers that rocket the mind. Our slow, unreckoning hearts will be left behind, unable to fear what is too strange. Nor shall you scare us with talk of the death of our race. How should we dream of this place without us? The sun, mere fire, the leaves, untroubled about us, a stone look on stone's face. Speak of the world's own change. Though we cannot conceive of an undreamt thing, we know to our cost how the dreamt cloud crumbles. The vines are blackened by frost, how the view alters. We could believe, if you told us so, that the white-tailed deer will slip into perfect shade, grown perfectly shy. The lark avoid the reaches of our eye. The jack pine lose its knuckled grip on the cold ledge. And every torrent burn as Xanthus once, its gliding trout stunned in a twinkling. What should we be without the dolphin's ark, the dove's return, all these things in which we have seen ourselves and spoken? Ask us, prophet, how we shall call our natures forth when that live tongue is all dispelled, that glass obscured or broken, in which we have said the rose of our love and the clean horse of our courage, in which beheld the singing locust of the soul unshelled, all we mean or wish to mean. Ask us whether with the worldless rose our hearts shall fail us, come demanding whether they shall be lofty or long-standing when the bronze knolls of the oak tree close.
Austin Lee, grade 9. Fortuna by Thomas Carlyle. The wind blows east, the wind blows west, and the frost falls and the rain. A weary heart went thankful to rest, and must rise to toil again, and must rise to toil again. The wind blows east, the wind blows west, and there comes good luck and bad. The thriftiest man is the cheerfulest, and 'tis a thriftless thing to be sad. Sad, 'tis a thriftless thing to be sad. The wind blows east, the wind blows west. You shall know a tree by its fruit. This world, they say, is worst to the best, but a dastard has evil to boot. But a dastard has evil to boot. The wind blows east, the wind blows west. What skills it to mourn or talk? A journey I have, and far ere I rest, I must bundle my wallets and walk. I must bundle my wallets and walk. The wind does blow as it lists alway. Canst thou change it to thy mind? The world will wander its own wise way. I also will wander mine. I also will wander mine.
Aditi Mahesh, grade 9, Miniver Chivi by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Miniver Chivi, child of scorn, grew lean while he assailed the seasons. He wept that he was ever born, and he had reasons. Miniver loved the days of old when swords were bright and steeds were prancing. The vision of a warrior bold would set him dancing. Miniver sighed for what was not, and dreamed and rested from his labors. He dreamed of Thebes and Camelot and Priam's neighbors. Miniver mourned the ripe renown that made so many a name so fragrant. He mourned romance now on the town. and art a vagrant. Minerva loved the Medici, albeit he had never seen one. He would have sinned incessantly could he have been one. Minerva cursed the commonplace and eyed a khaki suit with loathing. He missed the medieval grace of iron clothing. Minerva scorned the gold he sought, but sore annoyed was he without, and Minerva thought and thought and thought and thought about it. Minerva Chivi, born too late, scratched his head and kept on thinking. Minerva coughed, called it fate, and kept on drinking.
Freddie Chanel, grade 9. Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream to the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trip of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trip of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
Michael Tolk, grade 12. Monet refuses the operation by Liesl Mueller. Doctor, you say there are no halos around the streetlights in Paris, and what I see is an aberration caused by old age, an affliction. I tell you, it has taken me all my life to arrive at the vision of gas lamps as angels, to soften and blur and finally banish the edges you regret I don't see, to learn that the line I called the horizon does not exist, and sky and water so long apart are the same state of being. 54 years before I could see, Rouen Cathedral is built on parallel shafts of sun. And now you want to restore my youthful errors, fixed notions of top and bottom, the illusion of three-dimensional space, wisteria, separate from the bridge it covers. What can I say to convince you the Houses of Parliament dissolve night after night into the fluid dream of the Thames? I will not return to a universe of objects that don't know each other, as if islands were not the lost children of one great continent. The world is flux, and light becomes what it touches, becomes water, lilies on water, above and below water, becomes lilac and mauve and yellow and white and cerulean lamps, small fists, passing sunlight so quickly to one another. It would take long, streaming hair inside my brush to catch it, to paint
the speed of light, are weighted shapes. These verticals burn to mix with the air and change our bones, skin, clothes to gases. Doctor, if only you could see how heaven pulls earth into its arms and how infinitely the heart expands to claim this world, blue vapor without end.
We're ready to begin. One of the toughest jobs on the other side of the microphone is judging tonight's competition, as I'm sure you're aware. All the performances were spectacular. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our three judges, Trina Casey, Leanne Fulcher, and Jennifer Sparrow. And if you lovely young ladies would please come up on stage for us, please.
Don't finish applauding.
And they're not finished. I'd like to call the participants up on stage right now. All the participants be recognized. They did a wonderful job. How about one more round of applause? Would the following performers please remain on stage for round two, and the rest of you can take your seats, and thank you. Natalie Weinrock, Michael Tolk, Alexandra Orovitz, Lauren Oloski, and Janvi Kalra. Those five contestants, please stay on stage. The rest, thank you, and take your seats. Judges, are you ready? Okay, we're now ready to begin round two. Thank you.
Natalie Weidnock, grade 9, Alone by Edgar Allan Poe. From childhood's hour, I have not been as others were. I have not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passion from a common spring. From the same source, I have not taken my sorrow. I could not bring my heart to joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life was drawn from every depth of good and ill, the mystery which binds me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in its autumn tint of gold, from the lightning in the sky as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm and the cloud that took the form when the rest of heaven was blue of the demon in my view.
Thank you.
Michael Tolk, grade 12. The Animals in That Country by Margaret Atwood. In that country, the animals have the faces of people. The ceremonial cats possessing the streets. The fox run politely to earth. The huntsmen standing around him fixed in their tapestry of manners. The bull, embroidered with blood and given an elegant deck, trumpets, his name stamped on him, heraldic brand, because when he rolled on the sand, sword in his heart, the teeth in his blue mouth were human. He is really a man. In this country, the animals have the faces of animals. Their eyes flash once in car headlights and are gone. Their deaths are not elegant. They have the faces of no one.
Alexander Orvetz, grade 12. And Death Shall Have No Dominion by Dylan Thomas. And death shall have no dominion. With the man in the wind and the west moon, line. When their bones are picked clean and the clean bones gone, they shall have stars at elbow and foot. Though they go mad, they shall be sane. Though they sink through the sea, they shall rise again. Though lovers be lost, love shall not, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. Under the windings of the sea, twisting on racks when sinews give way. Line. Strapped to a wheel, they shall not break. Line. Faith in their hands shall snap in two, and the unicorn evils run them through. Split all ends up, they shan't crack, and death shall have no dominion. And death shall have no dominion. No more may gulls cry at their ears, or waves break loud on the seashores. Where blew a flower, may a flower no more lift its heads to the blows of the rain. Though they be mad and dead as nails, heads of the characters hammer through daisies, break in the sun till the sun breaks down, and death shall have no dominion.
Lauren Olosky, grade 9. Prayer by Jory Graham. Over a dock railing, I watch the minnows. Thousands swirl themselves, each a minuscule muscle, but also without the way to create current, making of their unison, turning, re-enfolding, entering and exiting their own unison in unison.
making of themselves a visual current, one that cannot freight or sway by minutest fractions the water's downdrafts and upswirls, the dockside cycles of finally arriving boat wakes. There, where they hit deeper resistance, water that seems to burst into itself. It has those layers, a real current, though mostly invisible, sending into the visible minnows airy motion that forces change. This is freedom. This is the force of faith. Nobody gets what they want. Never again are you the same. The longing is to be pure. What you get is to be changed, more and more by each glistening minute through which infinity threads itself. Also oblivion, of course, the aftershocks of something at sea. Here, hands full of sand letting it sift through in the wind, I look in and say, take this. This is what I have saved. Take this, hurry. And if I listen now, listen. I was not saying anything. It was only something I did. I could not choose words. I am free to go. I cannot, of course, come back. Not to this. Never. It is the ghost, posed on my lips. Here, never.
Ghazal by Agha Shahid Ali. Feel the patient's heart pounding. Oh, please, this once. James Merrill. I'll do what I must if I'm bold in real time. A refugee, I'll be paroled in real time. Cool evidence clawed off like shirts of hellfire? A former existence untold in real time. The one you would choose, were you then led by him? What longing, oh Yar, is controlled in real time? Each syllable sucked under waves of our earth. The funeral love comes to hold in real time. They left him alive so he could be lonely. The God of small things is not consoled in real time. God's angels, again, for Satan are forlorn. Salvation was bought, but sin sold in real time. And who is the terrorist? Who the victim? We'll know if the country is polled in real time. Behind a door marked danger are being unwound the prayers my friend enscrolled in real time. The rear view and sliding down it, the streets of farewell are now unrolled in real time. I heard the incessant burning of silk. I felt my heart growing so old in real time. Her heart must be ash where her body lies burned. What hope keeps your hands raking the cold in real time? Now, friend, the beloved has stolen your words. Read slowly. The plot will unfold in real time.
If you could stay in your seats, please, we'll take a short break while we calculate the scores. Thank you. All right, we've got the results. Honorable mention for the memorization and recitation of poetry goes to Alexander Orovitz and John V. Colorado. Third prize for excellence in the memorization and recitation of poetry, a gift voucher for $100 at Kinnikinnick Bookstore goes to Michael Tulk. Second prize for excellence in the memorization and recitation of poetry, a gift voucher for $250 at Kinnikinnick Bookstore goes to Natalie Weinrauch. Congratulations. And the first prize, an Apple iPad Mini in the recognition of outstanding achievement in the memorization and recitation of poetry in the first annual Singapore American School Poetry Out Loud competition, fourth annual, is awarded, I can't count, Lauren Olosky. Congratulations. Congratulations, ladies, and to all the contestants. You all did a wonderful job. A dear friend and colleague once told me that poetry was the distillation of language, the ultimate distillation of language and celebration of language, and I think we saw that tonight. I'd like to special thanks to our judges, special thanks to Heather Hoffman of the PTA for her support and for providing us with the awards tonight. Heather Hoffman of the PTA, thank you very much. And thanks to our judges again, Trina Casey, Lena Fulcher, and Jennifer Sparrow. I'd like to thank Rebecca Clark, Anne-Marie Russell, Kelly Nash, and Terry Lupo, members of the English department. Thanks for your commitment and dedication. And also I'd like to thank Paula Silverman and Paul Kevnick, ever the professionals. And finally, I'd like to thank the entire English department. You guys did a great job, and I'm happy to be a member of your department, our department. We did good. We learned them good. Thank you. And thanks to everybody for coming out tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. It was great.